Good morning, everyone. I'm here this morning sitting in my Mercedes SUV, and I want to share a product that I discovered about a month ago called Embito. They have a OBD2 dongle, and there's a couple things on here that make this really unique and have a little bit of similarity to like BMW enthusiasts who use BimmerCode or the other Beamer app to do quick things where you don't need to go get your laptop, load up the software, whether it's Entry for the Mercedes or BMW ISTA. You don't have to get into all the weeds if you're just doing simple work, simple repairs, trying to clear a couple codes, whatnot. But with this one, what's great here, I'll get this plugged in, is it has a section, obviously, for reading ECUs and handle faults is what they're called in this app, for your error codes. And here's the main screen that pops up. And first thing you're going to do is hit scan for devices. Pops up pretty fast. Hit connect. And here we go. Now, unfortunately, this part's kind of not the greatest. I'm not sure why it has to do this. You have to select the car class every time you do a new scan, a new connection. So I'll scroll through this at a slow rate because I couldn't figure this out and they wouldn't tell me which classes were supported. So I'll just scroll through here. You can stop, hit pause at any time, take screenshots of some of the models that are supported with this dongle. Now my car, it's a 2017 Mercedes-Benz GLS 550 with the 4MATIC. So I have the 166, and that was one thing as we're getting close to mine. When I first got the dongle, somehow I missed the 166 and I clicked on the 167, which, as you know, is after 17, and I thought the thing didn't work, and it took a week or two to get tech support to go through it and see what was going on, and they said, hey, just double check that you're hitting 166, not 167. So, yeah, rookie mistake. But no sweat. Pick my model. And this next screen loads up, gives you your battery reading. It doesn't know how many ECUs there are yet because we haven't hit a scan. So that's going to be our next step. So it usually goes fairly fast. While this is doing that, up here on the top right, you see this plus with and the other symbol here with the two circles. That's where you go and add credits. So it's not 100% free. But the use or the purchase and use of the dongle is one-time charge. That section for adding credits is for the cool section on here, which I'm excited to show you, is improve your MB. And what that has in there is things like disabling the seatbelt warning when you start driving down the road and you hadn't put it on yet. You can disable that. Auto start stop. I know that's a number one for quite a few owners of cars with auto start stop, and this dongle will let you completely disable it without busting out your laptop and diving into coding and all that stuff. So I'll show you all those options that happen to be available for this model. So here's your screen. Boom, we got 50 ECUs that it found. First section is handle faults, so that's where you get your error codes. Next one, service functions. Mine ended up being pretty limited. And then improve your MB. So we're going to do handle faults. And here will be, below us here, will be the list of all the ECUs. So we're going to hit read ECUs. And it's going to check and see if what's going on with the car at this point. And it's active as you scroll, so if you're scrolling, you can actually see how they're checking. So like I said, that initial part goes pretty quick. So I'll scroll through this just a hair slower so you can get an idea of some of the ECUs that the dongle is finding. And then obviously you can see in green, that's good. And in red, that means it's got an issue. And all the ones I have in red, I know about those issues already. They're not, most of them are something I don't plan on fixing. This car's 7 years old already. And they depreciate fast compared to what I paid for this car back in 2018. To what it's worth now. Yeah, do the math. So now we've read the list here of all the different ECUs that are available for us to interact with here. So I'll just pick one here just to show you how that works out here. So you just hit the little down arrow and it'll say faults and give you a count. It'll give you the ECU code, boom, and then view faults. This is where you get a little more detail. So you can erase all faults just within this menu of the audio operating unit, or back at the screen before, you can erase all faults across all ECUs. So you can be picky or you can do the whole thing. And most of us would just do the whole thing every time. So this one happens to be the power supply and system is too low. Car's been in the garage for about 2 days, working on some other projects posted on YouTube for this car. So hasn't really been started much, but it's had some significant battery usage. So probably need to throw the trickle charger back on there. So that's how you see more detail on what your faults are. And then obviously next I'll pick erase all DTCs. Oh look, F1's ready. This one doesn't take too long either. I have heard some of the other Mercedes models that this is compatible with have, 70, 80, even 90 modules it's got to get through. And that could take, a couple good minutes, 4 or 5 minutes to get to 100% for it to go through its whole thing. But like I was mentioning earlier, doing quick repairs. Hey, I unplugged, my front radars because I took the bumper off, and then I went in and turned the ignition on, and I got to do something and all that. That's obviously going to register error codes because now it doesn't see those modules in the CAN system. So, like I said, simple dongle, load up the app, and clear out those codes after you reconnect your harness from the bumper, for example, where the radars are, back to the car, and it'll clear out and it'll say, oh, okay, nothing's wrong, everything's back to normal. So great purchase for $79 in my opinion. So now we're good there. Looks like it did clear a couple of codes I have. The audio operating unit one, it's been doing that for a while. Left headlamp, this is my off-roading SUV, so it's had some struggles with water crossings and whatnot, so my headlight has a little bit of abuse, but it's the fan. in the headlight, is which these GLSs are known for headlight LED fan cooling issues, where the fans will stay on for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. After you shut the car off and walk away, they're still on, even if the lights weren't even on all day. It's a known fault. Okay, handle faults, we checked that out. Service functions, my car just only has one, engine control unit reboot. I've done it once, didn't notice anything different. So, but you could do it, and it says it's activated. So when you fire up the car, it's gonna reboot that control unit. Here's the fun one: improve your MB. So I'll scroll through this one kind of slow, because this is the one that they don't even, for some reason, publish, or you can't find exactly what improvement features you can have access to on your model. So here's what's available for my car, and the list is, fairly decent. Just like I mentioned before with the BimmerCode app, has something similar where there's already menu items that you can just select real quick, hit code, and now you've made some changes like auto folding mirrors, or all your welcome lights come on, stuff like that. The Mercedes, as you may or may not know, Mercedes is very complex, and it's not open. They lock a lot of stuff down, hence why you need the laptop and software and the understanding of how to use that, and what to do and not do, and always create a backup file for your previous configuration if you do make any coding changes. It'll save you big time. So I'll just quickly pop through these so you can kind of see what it says. Screen type, change the logo when it boots up. So you can have one that says AMG, you can have one that says just Mercedes, and another one that has a different Mercedes logo, and the other one is a different AMG logo that boots up on your command unit. And go back to the features list. Analog screen, enable or disable analog unit screen showing car data visualization. I didn't see a need to even try that one, because like I said, you got to have credits to unlock these. I guess that's their way of money after the sale for their business. Temperature units, that's a quick change. If you end up up in Canada, like where our M series we finally found and had imported down here, it was all set up in Celsius and kilometers and all that, so we had to go in and change all that. So that makes that fairly easy. And then we have a few fuel consumption units. Again, same thing, kilometers per hour, or whatnot for US or out of the US. Seatbelt warning. I did that one. I turned it off. It's really annoying in this car. There's no subtlety to it. It just is like dinging in your ear, and you're going to put it on in a second, like you're doing something, but you're just slowly cruising out of your neighborhood street or something. It's like, no, we'll just still turn that one off. And then what do we got next? We got start stop. So the two start stop options on the improved MB do take a little bit longer to communicate with, and I believe it's because of how Mercedes has been really strong on that fact because of their EPA rating. They don't want these cars not using auto start stop, because then their mile per gallon claim doesn't really hold up because the engine never shuts off. So you got a couple options in here. Only in eco mode, last mode, or just last mode by itself. So if you turned it off, you know, it's always going to do whatever you left it at. Only in eco mode, default on, and then just default on. So you can decide how you want to do that. You pick the one you want, hit activate, and you're good to go. I'm going to go from that start stop real quick to this start stop, system off. So selecting disabled will completely switch off the start stop system. During activation, ESP and ABS faults might appear in the instrument cluster. After activation, switch ignition off for a few minutes and faults will be cleared. Good side note off of that, when you're loading the ECUs, sometimes there's a random message pop up on the instrument cluster and or the command unit. And when you're clearing ECU codes, again with this dongle, you do get a couple of warnings like, you know, some of your safety systems have shut down, and you don't need to worry. It's just a quick thing that pops up and goes away. It doesn't store a fault code. The command unit does switch to diagnosis mode for about 5-6 seconds. Then it goes back into normal operation mode. So here, boom, we'll pick disabled on this one, hit activate, and boom, it says activated. And now when I fire it up, start driving down the road, and I go stop at stop sign or stoplight, it's not going to shut off the engine, and I don't have to hit the button every time I get in the car to disable it. Next one we got is stroboscope. This one's a fun one. This one, if your car has the intelligent LED system, you can tell by looking in the left or the outer edges of the headlight assembly, usually imprinted in the plastic near the high beam. It will say LED intelligent light assist, I believe. I'd have to double check that, but it is written inside the headlight itself. So really easy to tell if you have that system or not. Plus you can notice, like when you make turns and your headlamps turn left or right, when you're turning left or right, that's a pretty good chance you got that system. So I like messing with this one. Dynamic LED, and then stroboscope. It will strobe each of the LEDs. So it'll strobe the high beam, then the low beam, then the low beam on the other side, then the high beam, and then it'll go back and forth. So it'll strobe kind of like a cop car lights, you know. And then the other one it has is Night Rider mode. I'm 44 years old. I watched Night Rider as a kid. It was a late 80s, early 90s TV show. Unfortunately, never made a good enough comeback to get back in TV, but that one will light up, you know, going across with a slow pattern. So it'll do high beam, then low beam, then low beam, then high beam, and then back to low beam, then low beam, then high beam. And so it's got its own little pattern. Really cool to kind of look at night and, you know, play around with it when you're on the freeway. People are looking at your lights or trying to figure out what's going on with your car. You know, all these data and LED systems now, you can actually do some stuff. One touch turn signal. I didn't do this one because my car already has it. So you can save credits by not trying to buy and enable options that you already have. On these cars, you just barely tap it and it'll do automatic 3 blinks and shut itself off. So I didn't mess with that one. Next is needle sweep. You can do this one, but every Mercedes-Benz I've owned and been in, they all do that automatically if they have mechanical needles. They sweep all the way up to full max and then all the way back down and then fire up to whatever the actual data that's coming in needs the needle to be set at. You know, for example, your RPMs, if it's, you know, needs to be at 1200, so it'll go from 0 all the way up to 8,000, back to 0, and then up to 1200. So this one, I don't even remember if it costs anything, but not really, yeah, not really needed. CarPlay, Android Auto. So again, for my car, same thing. I already had CarPlay. Mine doesn't have the wireless CarPlay, unfortunately. It's 1 or 2 years too old because it wasn't an option yet, or at least on the GLS. But I still didn't have to do this one because I have the USB port, and I bought a cool little dongle off of Amazon, like $25. It's been working great for about, I don't know, 2 years. Phone pairs up right away. Screen changes to Apple CarPlay all automatically. You know, so no need to investigate or try to get Mercedes to upgrade the system to have wireless CarPlay. A $25 dongle from Amazon will take care of that. This one, I actually use this one. Rear right on with your driving lights. So with the intelligent LEDs, you have in so many words, you know, out on the street, they're called angel eyes, or, you know, like the eyebrow eyes or whatever. I've heard quite a few different things, but, you know, your two main LEDs in each headlamp will be off, but you'll have that white LED stripe going across the top of the headlight assembly and then kind of like rounding down the headlight assembly, you know, a little curve. That stays on white all day, and then at night that one's on too, but then of course your low beams turn on. So, but this one activates your rear running lights, and I think it gives just a little extra visibility that, you know, there's a better view for drivers behind you, I guess you could say, that, you know, that light is shining a little bit. So I went ahead and did that one. I know a lot of people are trying to do that on certain BMWs. That's some of them, there's something with the coating, you do it and it messes something up. This car, it was pretty smooth. My wife's M series, we did it on there, no issues there. Next thing we got, pressure units. You can change it from bar or kPa. So there's no real reason to mess with that one. The only thing you're going to see any pressure or any readings that would have those designations even close would be tire pressures, but that's just in PSI in the command system. And then air recirculation. Mercedes owners would be aware of the recirculation time limit that Mercedes puts in all of their cars. If I remember correctly, it's 20 minutes. Don't quote me on that, but maybe 30, somewhere in that range, 20 to 30 minutes. Auto recirculate will disengage and it'll start bringing in fresh air from outside again. I mean, as you know, with these cars, they are super sealed. You don't hear any road noise. I mean, it's just such a sealed up cabin that what one service writer told me, he had asked a similar question, and they said they wanted to make sure that, for example, in this SUV, you can have 7 people sitting in this thing. So if you have 7 people in here all breathing, talking, doing whatever for 30, 40, 50 minutes, and you don't have any fresh air coming in the car, that could be an issue. So that's one of the responses I've gotten from Mercedes, that's why they won't let the recirculation stay on indefinitely. So I did this one though because I'm the only one that drives this car. So that's a quick, easy one. Anti-theft alarm. I didn't mess with that. I'm not worried about that because of where I live. All gated and everything, and someone wants to steal a 7-year-old, almost 8-year-old car, okay, go ahead. Not a big fan of car alarms. They can be frustrating at times, especially when they have issues. But that may be a different situation on some of the newer models. Since mine's only a 2017. We covered the second option of start stop. Rear seatbelt message warning. So you can disable or enable rear seatbelts warnings in the instrument cluster. So, if you got kids in the car all the time, 2 kids that don't sit in like booster seats or whatnot, you'll get, if you activate this, you'll get a warning that one or both kids, or 3 kids actually, because that's a 3-seat right here behind me. It will tell you on the dash that someone doesn't have their seatbelt on, because almost every modern car now with airbag systems and the seatbelt systems, they have weight sensors in the seats. So you put something too heavy on the seat, it'll think a person's sitting there. And if the seatbelt's not engaged, you may have found that to happen to you once or twice. And you have to either engage the seatbelt or stop the car, put it in park, move the bag, and, kind of reset it, thinking that someone got out of the car, and then the thing will stop beeping. But that could be quite annoying when you're driving and it decides to start going off for too heavy of an object on your seat. Next one here, AMG car design. So this one was just like the image of the SUV. So like when it's loading, and we covered the different logos that load. The car logo that loads after is mine is not non-AMG, but you can change it to an AMG version where it'll end up showing you an image of the AMG version with the different rims and the little bit different features on the front bumper and the rear diffuser, stuff like that. It'll show on that little graphic image on your command system. I did it just because it was like a fun little thing to do, but not necessary. And by the way, I'm trying to keep the sun out. It is starting to come in here pretty quick, so. Let me try this real quick here. There we go. All right, so welcome lights. So this one's got a long introduction or description. Basically, it's having all your outside lights turn on and turn off based on proximity. So yeah, I enabled that one. I like having that stuff on. It's kind of nice, especially if my wife ever happens to drive the car and she's somewhere where it's dark or whatnot. Like, it gives her a little bit safer experience. that the car is all lit up, lighting an area around the car. And this GLS comes with the Mercedes logo, puddle lights, and the step lights, and all the rear lights turn on. The rear sort of fog lights, they're two little white lights in the back, two white LEDs that give you light, extra light when you're backing up. And then, of course, the headlights will turn on. So that was a good one to turn on. And then Parktronic sound extender. I did not do this one. I don't have any need for additional notification outside the car that, you know, it's going to make noise, that there's backing up and whatnot. I didn't want to mess with that. Don't need it. Hardly use the system as it is. And the last one is AMG menu. So this one, what I found with my model, and you know, since my model is 8 years old, in the instrument cluster, when you go left or right on the steering wheel control, you get your little bit different menus in there where you can change your settings for active cruise control or attention assist, or you know, some of those safety features that are on the vehicles. So in that menu, or in those menus, in the instrument cluster only, if you keep scrolling over past all the normal menus, the last menu is an AMG menu, and it will display temperatures for your transmission, the engine oil, and I believe it was the transfer case, since I have the 4MATIC. And then it has a secondary screen in the AMG menu with a lap timer and a start-stop lap timer selection. So this car, you know, it's got the big V8, the M278 engine. Does go pretty quick, tops out at 132 by the computer. Tested that quite a few times. But, you know, if you're somewhere where you're not going to be trying to go any faster than that, and you want to, you know, handle the car and see what it can do, and, you know, see what kind of times you get on certain driving patterns or whatnot, or routes, you could use that lap timer feature. But other than that, that's all it's there. But one note that I noticed with the AMG menu option that when I activated it, so my car has the paddle shifters, so I can go, you know, obviously manual mode or automatic mode. So the icons for reverse, neutral, drive, and park, everything there stays fine. But when you engage manual mode at the bottom, instead of it saying changing from D to M, whatever gear number you're in, for example, M3, it drops the M. It just disappears. So it'll just have a number in line with reverse, neutral, and your current gear number at the bottom. I didn't really like that. I like that it says M or it says D and the gear number that you're in. So that was just a preference. But that's the only thing I noticed weird with that option. So that covers all the options that were available on my vehicle. Settings, you got log out, delete my account, or firmware update. And then help does have quite a bit of useful common questions and answers. And you can hit vehicle at any time, go back to the main screen. And I'll show you this last icon up here we talked about earlier today with the credits. Overall, I ended up buying 100 credits and I used them all on the things that I wanted to try. And then from this point forward, I don't need to buy anymore because there's nothing else to change. And if I've already paid to unlock it, it's mine. So, you know, you may have a little bit extra investment if you want to play around with the options that are available on your car for improved MB. And, you know, make the investment. And, you know, I think depending on what options show up, but if you get a lot of options you can change via that way versus recoding half your modules with certain parameters in each of those modules to make some other feature work, opens up a lot of potential for issues, you know, or possible failures, or if you're not using the right battery system to keep the battery at the right voltages while it's doing coding, that could also be an issue and lock everything out. So this was just a surprisingly useful dongle, and for 79 bucks, I have no complaints. So hopefully, you know, other MB owners, you see this and you know, want to have something where you're able to check out your car on your own, just kind of see what's going on, clear some fault codes, especially if you've just been making minor repairs or you're disconnecting stuff that you know will give a code. And, you know, on the Mercedes too, sometimes it'll recognize that those things are backhaul on its own and it'll clear the code itself. But some of them, they do store as permanent errors that you need to acknowledge and clear. So that covers the unit and the app. You can just hit disconnect. And then the vehicle option goes away at the bottom. If you needed to go back into it, the scan icon moves to the middle and you can scan for devices, or it'll still be up there because it already knows it's there. And the only other thing here I forgot to mention on this main screen before you connect, there is an enter demo mode, but honestly it's pretty misleading because what they do is they throw on everything that they have found that works across all the models, and more than half of it not even close to possible on this model in my situation. So, you know, there's probably a lot of cool things in there that people will get excited for, especially for certain models that missed out, like mine missed out on wireless CarPlay by a year, you know, but it's not possible on my model anyways. But other models, you know, you got to pay for that upgrade. Well, you know, that may be an option, it may not, but you could enter demo mode to get an idea of some of the things you may or may not be able to do, but it doesn't drill down specific to the model that you want to know more about. You need to buy the dongle, hook it up, and see what it says. That was the response that I got from the company, but I'm a patient guy and willing to try it for the price, and I was happy. So hopefully this helps you out, and if you do proceed to get one, hopefully there's some cool things you can explore and make changes on your Mercedes to make it that much better. Thank you.